All right, good afternoon, I guess it is, everybody. We are live here to break down a moderate risk of severe weather today across the Red River region of North Texas and southern Oklahoma. We'll be going live all the way from the beginning of this event, the Dallas-Fort Worth area here this afternoon and evening. Looking like right now, the Storm Prediction Center has put out a mesoscale discussion at this time for the moderate risk area for a watch being likely for wind gusts in excess of 115 miles per hour here. We're going to pull up this mesoscale discussion right now. And as always, feel free to leave comments and we'll be sure to look periodically at them in order to get any questions y'all have answered here. We're just waiting for this to pull up right now. Give us 1 second. Looks like the internet's running a little bit slow. That's always a good start. But while we're waiting for that to load up, we already have had a couple of tornado warnings so far today across the panhandle of Oklahoma and up into the extreme northwestern Texas panhandle here. One currently ongoing across the northeastern or northwestern Texas panhandle right now. We'll break that down here shortly for you. Just so you can see the cities that are going to be impacted by that. So as of right now, we have up on the screen the mesoscale discussion that was issued by the Storm Prediction Center about 20 minutes ago here, saying that the watch is likely. We'll probably be seeing a PDS, particularly dangerous situations, severe thunderstorm watch issued for this area. As it does look like tornadoes will not be the main concern today, more of a derecho type threat, as wind gusts up to 100 miles an hour and even into the 115, 120 mile an hour range are certainly within reason for this area here along southwestern Oklahoma here into southern central Oklahoma and into the Red River Valley of Texas here. Even into some of the Caprock areas, but this is likely going to be primarily supercellular over here, where the tornado risk is a little bit higher down by the Lubbock area, Plainview area. And then as we head along the Red River here, looking like a complex of severe thunderstorms and potentially destructive thunderstorms is going to evolve from these cells that are currently developing up into the northern panhandle of Texas and into the panhandle of Oklahoma here. We'll see these sag off to the south and east here and gradually merge and intensify into what's going to be a pretty destructive event here. We can say that with pretty good certainty. Looking at models here, we'll make sure to break those down for you as well as we break down this event here before things really start to get going, before this watch is issued here within the next hour or two across the Red River region here of Texas and Oklahoma. So what we're going to do here is we're going to share our radar screen right now for y'all. Give me 1 second here. All right, here we go. Just going to make sure this is up and sharing for y'all. There we go. We do have currently a tornado warning in effect for an observed tornado that was seen up here by the Felt area of the panhandle of Oklahoma. This has now started to dig to the south into the surface winds, which are southwesterly here at this time. So this is a very favorable direction for the supercell storm to be tracking right now. We'll likely see probably another tornado or two drop out of this before we start seeing cell mergers into what's going to be our sort of derecho event or high-end wind event We can't say derecho quite yet because it hasn't finished. We have to wait a little bit before we count it as a derecho. But again, high end wind event is going to be expected here across the Red River region of Texas and Oklahoma through the day and evening hours today, and even into the overnight hours. But the main threat starting out here is going to be the tornado threat, as this supercell storm heading toward Ware, Texas now is anchoring into that southwesterly surface flow, traveling at about 90 degrees, which is extremely favorable for tornado genesis here. That hook shape right now, and really get its act together as it does head toward the Ware area here. Again, observed tornado by the Felt area. Currently not seeing an overly impressive velocity signature right now. We'd want to see a little bit of a stronger return here in terms of red and green being right next to each other here. The green means going towards the radar. The red is away. What we can see here is that RFD, rear flank downdraft, is starting to strengthen here. Inflow is looking a little broad at this time. If we are able to get that to strengthen here over the next couple of minutes, next couple of scans, we will likely be seeing a tornado on the ground yet again with this storm as it heads to the south-southeast toward the Ware, Texas area. The good news is so far it's been traveling over relatively unpopulated areas at this time. But it certainly does look like it is starting to get its act together yet again here, as we're really starting to see that hook shape take shape here across the extreme north, and we'll likely see continued tornado warnings for this, as radar coverage in this area is pretty bad given the lack of population across the area. But we'll be using the Amarillo radar for this storm right now. As it starts to travel in that direction here, we'll likely start getting a little bit higher resolution radar scans as it travels towards the Amarillo area here. Likely not going to be impacting that area, as it is significantly off to the south here. We did just get another tornado warning here just to the south and east of Amarillo, with this storm just to the south really starting to ramp up in a quick way here. Didn't have too much of an appendage early on, but now that we just got the most recent radar scan here, we are starting to get that hook appendage. Although velocity scans are relatively underwhelming here, maybe because the way we have the radar set up right now. So let's get that fixed up here, and we'll see if we can see a little bit of a better return. Warning is going to be in effect for 2-inch diameter hail. That's going to be another pretty big threat today, at least early on, with these supercellular storms that are developing here across the Texas area here, the Texas Panhandle, around the Amarillo area down toward Lubbock and into the northern Panhandle toward the Dalhart area. This one affecting the Palo Duro Canyon area, moving southwest of Claude, moving pretty slowly, so you will be able to see it here as things are looking pretty low precipitation at this point. But the tornado has not yet been confirmed. It is just radar indicated at this time. But hail up to 5 inches will be a threat with these storms as they start to really get ramping up here. Already 1 3/4-inch diameter hail has been reported by spotters here already, and up to 3 inches per radar scans right now. So this will be a pretty dangerous storm. The good news is that this is moving through relatively unpopulated areas here in the Canyon region, moving into the Caprock of Texas right now. So We'll definitely keep an eye on this as it starts moving toward the Bryson Leslie area. But for now, moving through a relatively unpopulated area, definitely kind of a touristy area with those canyons. A lot of people hiking, so definitely have to keep a lookout for that. Let's get the direction on here. 302 degrees by 10 knots. Let's get that up and see if we get a better velocity scan at 10 knots. And no, really not the best velocity signature on this. It may have been a few scans ago here. No, not really sure why we have a tornado warning. It may have been a spotter confirmed wall cloud or something like that. But not seeing too significant a threat on that cell quite yet. But this one up in the far northwestern Texas Panhandle is definitely the one to watch for now as it's moving off to the south and east towards the Ware area at this time. A little bit of a stronger signature here, but still pretty weak at this time while we're waiting for it to get itself together here. Another severe warn cell has cropped up in the last couple of scans here. Looks like a couple of merging supercells. This one likely not to go tornadic here, I would imagine. Just given the fact that we're starting to see this already bow out here. And that's going to be the theme we're seeing with a lot of these storms. They're going to start merging into a line segment here that's going to move through the Red River region of Texas and southern Oklahoma here. And that's what's going to bring us that higher threat of wind in excess of 100, even 120 miles an hour here. Pretty intense winds going to be expected with these storms here as they move off to the south and east. Pretty comparable with those Iowa derecho wind gusts. So wouldn't be surprised, unfortunately, to see this become our next $1 billion thunderstorm disaster here, unfortunately. Other supercell that does look like it's starting to get its act together here. If it is able to stay by itself for the next 15 or 30 minutes, I could definitely see a tornado risk with this storm as it's really starting to get that RFD punching around here. We'll need a couple of minutes to organize itself, but we are already starting to see some broad rotation on this storm as it heads off to the south and east as well towards the Twitchell area, Huntoon and Booker, Texas areas here. This is about to start moving in to the northeastern Texas Panhandle at this time. These are going to be the, say, 3 or 4 storms we're going to be watching through the next couple of hours here before things start to merge into a line. But that's about enough of radar for now until we start getting a more significant severe weather threat going on, as it looks like a lot of the tornado warnings at this time are just radar indicated. We'll get back to these once we break down the models and current conditions across the area to show you our main concerns here. So we're going to take that off and we are going to move over to model data and current conditions. Let's pull up models first. This is going to be the short range HRRR model, the rapid refresh. It is picking up on this event pretty well here, as it is showing those supercell storms up along the Oklahoma Panhandle, Texas Panhandle border here. As we move through time, if it loads, we do see that complex of storms that does develop, which is happening right now, just off to the east of Amarillo. And as we do continue further out into time here over the next 2 hours, you can see those cell mergers taking place here, starting to evolve into that high-end squall line, high wind risk here with limited tornado potential. We do have to closely watch these storms just off to the south of Lubbock that are expected to develop here over the next few hours, as these will likely anchor into the stronger southeasterly flow that's going to be in place and could increase that tornado potential with these cells here just south to the Lubbock area that models are showing to develop here over the next few hours. Let's see if that wants to load. There we go. We'll go another couple hours forward, and then you can really start to see this line taking shape across the Red River Valley here as we head into the evening hours today. This is likely when we're going to start seeing those significant wind gusts taking place over hurricane force and potentially up into the mid 100 mile an hour range there, getting up to around 120 miles an hour per the Storm Prediction Center mesoscale discussion that we are seeing. What is really concerning me and a lot of other meteorologists at this time is the low-level jet that is supposed to take place with these storms. Latest model runs are actually on the weaker side here with that low-level jet, but even still, this is pretty intense winds to be just above the surface here. Looking at winds about 70 knots just above the surface. And once you transfer that to the ground, which will not be a problem with these higher precipitation rates we're expecting in this line of storms, we'll likely see these winds reaching the surface here, which would be in excess of about 100 miles an hour. Once you get that moisture loading happening, it's really going to accelerate these winds to the ground. As a rule, a lot of meteorologists say, at least my professor back in Lyndon State College said, you'll likely see about a 20% increase from what's aloft if you get some good moisture loading going on within these squall lines here that are expected to develop along the Red River Valley here. And then you can see as it moves into the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex here, that rear inflow jet really starts to get cranking up here, likely in excess of 70, 75 knots just above the surface. And this is probably when we're going to start seeing the potential of those 120 mile an hour wind gusts getting down to the surface, which is what we're really concerned about here. It's going to be that Burke-Burnett area of Texas there, through the Lawton, Oklahoma area. They'll likely get in on this as well, and then into the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex as we head into the late night hours tonight and into the early morning hours tomorrow, as this complex of storms really gets going as that low-level jet increases into the overnight hours here. So it's not just the low-level jet that will keep these storms going into the overnight hours. It's going to be that elevated instability that we do have in place here. So we're going to head over to that mixed layer cape, and you can see as we head into the overnight hours, we have a huge plume of instability that's expected to be in place here out in front of this line. And that combined with that wind energy just above the surface is going to tend to keep this line organized even as instability becomes elevated in nature. That's why we're likely not expecting too big of a tornado risk today. But that high wind threat is going to be the predominant feature we're going to be looking at as this line runs into this very favorable air mass for thunderstorm maintenance through the overnight hours, maybe even getting into the Arklatex region if this instability can maintain itself, which it does look like it will. Yeah, look at that. It's going to go right into the Arklatex region there. So it's going to be a very long-lived high wind event, likely going from the, Ada, Oklahoma area, and in the Childress, Texas area, all the way down toward the Lawton, Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, and then probably ending here in the early morning hours over by the Arklatex region here of northeastern Texas, southwestern Arkansas, and into southeastern Oklahoma here. So definitely something to really keep an eye on as we go into the next couple of hours here. Looking at a couple of soundings from the Red River region here. This will be near the Lawton, Oklahoma area. You can see that extreme instability here. The amount of instability is calculated by the area in between the temperature, which is the red line here, and the parcel temperature, which is this white line here. And the fatter that area is, the more instability you have. And given that this is after sundown here, this is pretty impressive to see 4,500 joules of CAPE existing in this area here. Again, not seeing too high of winds in the low levels, which is quite interesting. But given the instability and the wind shear aloft, these 50, 70, 75 mile an hour winds, or not winds aloft here, we'll likely see a very powerful line of severe thunderstorms, destructive thunderstorms making its way through the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, through the Red River Valley, and into the Arklatex as we head into the evening hours and the overnight hours here. We do have a tornado sounding getting pulled right here out in front of the line, but that threat will likely be minimal here, given that we do have some stability lingering in the low levels. That's why we're likely to see more of a high wind event than a tornado threat today as these storms start to congeal into a line. Let me just pull up our expected radar imagery here so you can kind of see what we're looking at. Yep, this is that line of storms that is expected to develop here across the Red River and then push off to the east and southeast here. We do have a little bit of convection firing up back toward Amarillo into the overnight hours, but this also is likely to be elevated convection with a minimal tornado threat, as a lot of overturning is expected to occur behind this complex of thunderstorms here. So over the next few hours, the main things we're going to be watching is how quickly these storms grow upscale into that line segment here in this northern mode, and if we're able to get a tornado threat out of this mode down by the Lubbock area and the Big Spring area, Odessa area of Texas into, I guess you'd call this the southern panhandle here. Looking at the dew points here, which is going to be very important when it comes to the moisture loading within these storms that do develop, you can see this deep plume of highly moist surface dew points here, with dew points being well up into the 70s here, maybe even into the lower 80s in some locations, which is quite incredible, even for these areas here. But again, we don't have too much of a strong southeasterly flow, which is what would limit the tornado threat with this line of storms. As we go off to the south and west of that complex towards the storms that are expected to develop just south of the Lubbock area into the Big Spring and Odessa region of Texas, you do start to see slightly less moisture wrapping in, but we do have that stronger southeasterly flow in place, which will likely elevate that tornado threat across this region here. The one issue I am seeing with this sound right now is that temperatures will likely be a bit warm in order to get those bases down. But if we are able to get a couple of showers in place out in front of this to decrease the temperature, we may be able to squeak out a couple of tornadoes in this area. Definitely seems more favorable over here than up along the Red River out in front of that complex of storms. So we'll definitely have to keep an eye out on that. And then we'll head over to our current conditions right now. As we can see, we have the couple of supercell storms that we did mention at the beginning of this stream, developing just to the east of the Amarillo area here, and then up along the Texas-Oklahoma Panhandle borders. Let's go on over to our surface observations. We can see locally southeasterly winds developing in the Amarillo area, also up by the lone supercell storm that has already produced a tornado along the Oklahoma-Texas Panhandle border here. So these are likely going to be the two cells we're going to be watching for a potential tornado threat before things start to line out along this cold front that has developed pretty much in a line like this. You can kind of see the wind shift here with these northerly winds getting punched in behind the cold front. Looks like more of a dew point front than anything because the temperatures aren't too much colder up there. And then we also have the southerly winds getting pushed up on the southern end of this cold front with that strong moisture advection getting pushed into it here. Likely going to be helping these storms build up some pretty nice hail cores here as those PWATs really start to increase the precipitable water content of the atmosphere. Looking at storm relative helicity, or the amount of turning of winds within the atmosphere here, we can see that area just to the east of Lubbock starting to crank up that storm relative helicity here in the 200 to 300 meters squared per second squared range here. That will likely foster an environment favorable for at least weak tornadoes here before things start to merge into a smaller line segment down toward the Lubbock area there. So definitely something we'll have to watch is that southern mode as well, as things really start to ramp up this afternoon. And then as we go off to the north here, you can see these cells along the Oklahoma Panhandle, Texas Panhandle border are in a favorable environment at this time. And that does look like it is going to expand off to the south and east here through time. But once these storms do merge, we'll likely be seeing a diminished tornado threat, even given the fact that we do have those higher rotational values through the column of the atmosphere here going into the evening hours. But again, not expecting too much in the way of a tornado threat today. Going to be mainly those high winds we're going to be having a look at today, especially given these downdraft Cape values here well into the 1,000 range. We generally look at anything above 800 being a precursor for significant wind events here, and we are well up into that range, right up through the Red River Valley here. You kind of see this little gradient that forms right down through the Childress area and down through Ada, Oklahoma, and then down towards the Abilene area here. And this is likely where we're going to see those wind gusts up into the 100s to 120 mile an hour range. Going to be a pretty intense day down through those areas. Looking at our surface-based Cape right now, it does look like we're having a little bit of trouble eroding away some of that elevated stability here across the Childress area down to the Abilene region. But again, once these storms get fired up along this cold front here and these extreme Cape values up near 5,000, 4,000 joules per kilogram, that's the amount of convective available potential energy that's in place in the atmosphere. we're likely not going to have a problem even with having elevated instability across this region of the Red River here. As the storms will already be fired up here, they'll be able to take advantage of that elevated instability across this region, and they'll likely erode since early morning storms were across this area, and we do have some time for that to destabilize before the line does push through the area here. So let's go on back to radar, and we'll have a look at those tornado warnings we were talking about earlier across the Texas Panhandle. Let me just pull that up here for y'all. And again, if y'all have any questions, please feel free to let us know. We'll make sure to have a look in the comments here as we are live through the duration of this event. Let's just make sure that's up and rolling there. It is. Give us 1 second. There we go. All right, so here we go. It does still look like we do have 2 tornado warnings in progress right now. One that is heading toward the Dalhart area of Texas, and one that is moving through the Palo Duro area of Texas right now. This one does look like it's starting to get its act together, as we are getting those winds going towards and away from the radar right now. Again, things do look a little broad at this time, but as the storm moves off all by itself to the east-southeast here, would not be surprised to see this start to tighten up and actually get a tornado on the ground, as we're starting to get that flying eagle signature here. The one thing that is a little bit interesting right now with this cell is this outflow boundary. As long as it is able to anchor along this boundary that we're seeing right here on radar, we'll be able to crank up the rotation within this storm and likely produce a tornado. If this boundary does outrun the storm, we'll likely see upscale development into that line, and this will predominantly become a high wind threat with the storm. But the longer it can stay all by itself and out in front of this boundary that we're seeing on radar here, the better in terms of tornado potential. Already seeing baseball size hail with this cell in these maxed out cores right here in the forward flank of it. And we're likely going to be seeing some much higher totals than that here in terms of hail, probably getting up into the 5-inch range in some of these desolate areas of the Palo Duro Canyon, or just off to the east of the Palo Duro Canyon area here. So this will certainly be something to watch, as we're starting to see some pretty good inflow getting ripped into the storm. And then that RFD really starting to crank up on the backside. As we head off to the north, we'll have a look at our tornado warned thunderstorm we have up by the Dalhart area, about to head into Ware right now. This storm does look like it is trying to go linear in a big way, as we're starting to get that upscale development here. We did used to just have this parent cell here, but now we're starting to get this little tail growing off of it. So this is likely what's going to start off our high wind threat here, and this is likely going to kind of connect between these storms. We'll likely start seeing storms develop here between Dalhart and into the Spearman area, and this is going to be what's going to be causing that significant high wind threat as we go through the next several hours here. We do still have to watch this, as it does have some somewhat good shape to it, especially since it is heading toward a pretty populated area, the Dalhart area here. So we'll keep an eye on this, but right now it does look like it's starting to grow up scale and develop more of a high wind threat with it, as these cells behind it start to congeal and merge into a bow echo here. But it does look like some pretty high winds are about to move into the Ware area up at about 8,000 feet here. Looks like we're having winds right up around that 55 mile an hour range right now. But then as that accelerates to the surface, wouldn't be surprised to see some 60, 65 mile an hour wind gusts coming out of this storm here. No mention of wind at this time, but that threat is definitely increasing over the next couple minutes here in Ware, as we're starting to get a pretty solid updraft developing here. As you can see, winds going away, winds going toward the radar, and we are seeing that rapid rising motion developing and heading toward the Ware area, where up to baseball size hail is going to be possible. As the storm moves right along the highway here toward Ware and then into the Dalhart area eventually over the next 30 minutes to an hour. And then as we go back over to the area just to the north and east of Amarillo, some pretty rapid development of thunderstorms has begun here. This is also going to be part of that long-lived squall line with a high wind threat. Looks like that is developing rather quickly here across the area. We're going to see these cells all merge together here into one cohesive line and then really start to accelerate off to the east-southeast as these storms move from the Amarillo area into southwestern Oklahoma, into the hill country here. So Elk City, Mangum, Altus, Frederick, you're all going to be in the line of this over the next couple of hours here. All this prefrontal convection we're seeing is not going to inhibit any of this instability at this time, as these appear to be relatively weak thunderstorms considering what we have coming, and given how isolated they are at this time. So these are likely going to move out of the way of this system that's starting to develop here, the MCS, Mesoscale Convective System. We'll likely see this develop within the next hour or two and then move into southwestern Oklahoma through the next couple of hours here. Already starting to see some pretty significant wind reports up here across the area just to the north of Oklahoma City here into Medford, Ponca City, Newkirk right now. But already seeing some 70 mile an hour wind gusts being reported by emergency management here, right by the Blackwell area of Oklahoma. These storms are not expected to continue to be all that severe, though, as it does look like these are becoming here. That's going to develop some stability within the air mass, and we'll likely see these storms kind of weaken, maybe producing a flash flood threat here, moving all that fast, and they're kind of moving along the same axis here. So would not be surprised to see a flash flood event develop up here along the Kansas-Oklahoma border as this in the wake of these storms. The greater instability is going to be down here through the Red River Valley. We're talking about the Altus area, Frederick, Quanah, Childress, Wichita, Gainesville, Texas here as we head into the evening and overnight hours. This is going to be where that main severe threat is going to be, with that moderate risk of storms, of severe storms, sorry. And let's move back on over to this Amarillo radar here, as this is where things are looking increasingly interesting right now. We're just going to wait for this radar to load up for us here. and we'll start talking about these cells yet again, as they are really starting to rapidly ramp up here. And as we were saying, the hail is rapidly growing on this storm. We did have 3¼ inch hail reported just a few minutes ago here. Not sure what this is near really, but just to the south of Claude, we've now gotten a 4.25 inch diameter hailstone that has been reported by the public here. Looks like 10 miles south of Claude. That is grapefruit size hail. So any town or house that this cell goes through here will likely have a potential of producing damaging hail up to 5 inches in diameter at this time. A lot of these returns here are pretty much maxed out across the forward flank of the storm here. Might even see these run into the Clarendon, Texas area, which is a relatively larger population center compared to the rest of the area over here. But again, right now, this storm is looking like it has the greatest potential for tornado production here in the near future, as we're really starting to get that updraft really well formed here. And once we're able to get these inflow winds wrapping around, we'll start to see this rapidly gain tornado potential here, as long as it can stay all by itself. Let's adjust our storm relative velocities here just to make sure we're not seeing a tornado in progress on radar right now, because sometimes you can see debris getting lofted up if you're at the right angle here. But that's going at 297 at 20 knots. 297 at 20 knots. And yeah, things are still looking pretty similar there, but that inflow is really starting to ramp up here into this storm, right in that right into the inflow region here. Sorry, mine blinked out a little bit right there. And then we have that more powerful RFD starting to wrap around the backside here. So we'll likely see tornado potential increasing rapidly with this tornado warned storm just to the south of Goodnight, Texas here. We'll watch as the inflow winds and outflow winds start to congeal together here, likely producing a tornado within probably the next couple scans here, if that can get its act together. And it does look like we just had another confirmed tornado up here on this WARE cell, likely near or on top of the WARE area right now. Well, that looks like forward flank. Probably down in this region here, just to the southwest of WARE, Texas. Moving toward or just to the southeast of the Dalhart area right now. Again, another confirmed tornado is on the ground. Likely just to the southwest of WARE, Texas, up in the Texas Panhandle there. And that was 6 miles west of WARE that tornado was reported by a spotter just a couple of minutes ago here. And as we can see with this cell, even though it is starting to grow upscale here, it looks like it is trying to break a little bit off to the south and east here to get away from this line. But its inevitable fate here is going to be getting congealed with the main line. But in the meantime, that increased tornado threat is going to be a good possibility here as it continues to move off to the south and east. And this has been a pretty cyclical supercell here. We've already gotten a tornado report up by the Felt area, and now yet again down by the WARE, Texas area here, and moving toward Dalhart. We are starting to see that inflow start to increase, likely seeing those 60, 70 mile an hour inflow winds hitting the WARE area right now. And then looking at the baseballs moving into the wear area as well over the next couple of minutes here as these pink to purple returns start to impact wear, as it looks like this supercell storm is going to be moving in that direction off to the southeast here. And we are really starting to see on that last scan that hook start to develop yet again, just off to the west of where Texas here. Now we're starting to get a mesocyclone, weak mesocyclone developing here on this cell just to the south of Goodnight, Texas right now, which is southeast of Amarillo. Really starting to see a good supercellular structure here on this cell as it does move predominantly off to the east. It does look like a little bit of a southern jog to it here as that appendage is starting to grow. That is yet another sign that this is likely to be producing a tornado momentarily here as it moves toward the Bryce and Leslie, Texas area here. Because usually these storms, as they start to jog a little bit more off to the south and south and east, you start to see those stronger rotational values developing within the hook of the storm here. Does look like we are starting to get a little bit tighter of a velocity signature here right in the hook of this storm right now. This is likely a very visible tornado if it is on the ground. And if spotters are able to get on it, we'll likely be seeing reports out of this storm as we move through the next couple of minutes here. Is this area of rotation through the next couple of minutes? As this does start to strengthen, though, we will likely see this become wrapped in rain and hail here. And these returns are really impressive. Likely seeing these oil fields and everything that are out here, the canyon region, getting upwards of 5-6 inch diameter hail right now. Would not be surprised with that at all, as we're starting to get that 3-body scattered spike coming out of that hail core right now. That's this little line that's popping off on the reflectivity here. That is a very good sign that significantly large hailstones are starting to scatter the radar beam right now. And that's been present for several scans now, which I'm certainly not surprised with looking at the radar signature right now. Looks like we have a little bit of an error in our velocities here. But in the next scan, we'll likely start seeing that inflow really start to increase on the cell here and likely produce a tornado here, given that extreme surface-based instability and those favorable surface winds for tornadoes here that are locally in place across the Texas Panhandle, from Amarillo to Lubbock and points east towards the Childress area. So we'll likely see continued tornado warnings out of this cell here. Having another quick look at this cell up by Ware right now, starting to lose a little bit of its structure yet again, but recently a tornado was visually observed by spotters just to the east of the Ware area. So we'll have to closely keep an eye on this cell, but does look like overall it is trending towards an upscale development here into that major squall line we're anticipating to develop here and move through that moderate risk area. Give us 1 second. Okay. It's interesting. Okay. Yeah, we're definitely going to have to closely watch this cell down here. It looks like it's kind of trying to shed off this this flanking line right here. And then this monster of an RFD is likely what's going to start being the main mesocyclone over the next few scans here. as it's really starting to hook up at this time. Looking like this is going to be the area we're watching for a potentially significant tornado to develop here over the next couple of minutes, as things are really starting to ramp up right now. And again, this is going to be heading towards Bryce, Texas, Leslie, Texas, those sorts of areas. If it does start to strengthen, we'll likely see these areas getting impacted. If it does stay a little bit weaker, we'll likely see those 5 to 6 inch diameter hailstones impacting the highway between Clarendon, Texas and Bryce, Texas as we head through the next hour or so here. Another area we're going to have to watch is this lone cell out in front of the developing line here. Although it is not in as favorable of a wind shear environment for tornadoes, it is starting to form a pretty good signature on it right now. Has yet to go severe, but certainly something to watch as these storms start to interact with that elevated, or not elevated, it's surface-based instability right now. But we're going to have to closely watch to see if this appendage can merge with this cell. It likely will, as we do have favorable wind profiles for merging cells at this time. So we may see this briefly merge into a supercell before getting absorbed by this line of storms that's developing out here into the Texas Panhandle. But over the next hour or two before that happens, would not be surprised to see this turn supercellular and produce a large hail threat as well as a weak tornado threat as well, given the wind shear environment this is traveling in. We'll have to closely watch this over the next hour or two here as we continue this stream. Does look like we're also starting to get some. This is just going crazy and right with radar here, and have a look at these supercells that just went severe over by just south of Mineral Wells and the Palo Pinto here. These also are looking like they do have a pretty good supercell structure on them, but again, these are in a pretty favorable environment for merging cells. So we'll have to see what happens here. If we're getting more development off to the south, we'll likely get more of a linear mode developing. But if these two storms can merge right here, the one next to Metcalf Gap, if that can merge with the one off to the south here, we could also see some weak tornado potential developing with these cells as they move off to the east-southeast. Likely missing the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex here, but moving into the southern suburbs towards the radar site here at the airport. So these are going to have to closely be watched as they start to develop. We'll have to keep an eye to see if these can merge into a larger supercell storm as we're starting to get that flying eagle shape to it. We'll definitely have to closely watch these as we go into the next couple of hours as well. Does look like we just got a new tornado warning up here right over the Borger, Texas area. Let's load up this radar imagery here and see if we can see what the National Weather Service is seeing here and see where this area of rotation is tracking right now. Not really. That's interesting. Oh, bet you it was a brief wall cloud that was able to form along this outflow boundary that's starting to develop just north of Borger. Looks like there was some weak rotation that did spin up there for a brief amount of time before slowly weakening here as we're starting to get those winds from the RFD rushing towards the radar here. So likely this won't be tornadic for too long as it moves off to the south and east here. Cargray, Texas, Kings Mill, Texas, Pampa, Texas, White Deer, Coiler, all looking at this severe warned storm with tornado potential moving towards it over the next 30 minutes to an hour here. We're likely going to be seeing a greater wind potential out of the system here as it starts to move off to the south and east towards those aforementioned areas, as we're really starting to see that surging of wind out behind. Hail potential is also there, so wind-driven baseballs are going to be likely heading towards the Pampa area within the next hour, Kings Mill, Texas, White Deer, Coiler, and then towards the Skellytown, Texas area within the next 30 minutes here. This will definitely be something else we're going to have to watch here closely, as it does look like we're starting to get into that higher wind potential here, but likely going to be seeing that highest wind potential in the next 3 to 4 hours. And then we're also watching this cell yet again just to the south of Goodnight, Texas, heading toward the Bryce and Leslie area right now. We are starting to see that inflow wrap around the RFD here, and within the next couple of scans would not be surprised to see a tornado confirmed on the ground here as this cell moves off to the east and southeast. So going to be quite interesting to watch. We'll also have to look at this appendage here that's starting to develop. It looks like at this time in this hail core right here, but we may start seeing a more cyclical supercell with the mesocyclone in the rotation moving on a little bit more to the south here. But at this time, the main threat is going to be right where this green dot is right now. We're starting to see that RFD pinching off the inflow, and that's when you start to get that acceleration of the warm, moist air getting funneled into the storm. That little pinch between the colder air masses there is really what accelerates that inflow of warm, moist air into the storm here to increase that rotation rapidly. So we're going to have to closely be watching this cell here over the next 30 minutes to an hour. And again, this cell over by Borger moving toward Pampa, Texas. Again, a high wind threat with this cell is evolving right now. Wouldn't be too worried about this in terms of tornado potential, even though there is a tornado warning on it. That was likely just from a few scans back here just north of Borger, where there was a weak velocity couplet or weak rotation that did develop for about a scan or two there, but does look like it is starting to get linear and be accompanied by a significant wind threat now. Looking at the warning at this time, it does look like this is for 60-mile-an-hour winds, but we'll likely see those increase over the next couple of hours here as this cell moves into southwestern Oklahoma here into the hill country. Looking up at the cell by where, looks like things are starting to mellow out a little bit as this does congeal into a line. Actually, hold on. I just saw that new scan there. Did not see that new scan, everybody. Sorry about that, but we are starting to get this new appendage developing here and some more rotation developing along the southern end of this as this starts to hook up in this newest scan here. Looking like a pretty formidable mesocyclone. It is pretty small, but land spout potential given the heat of the day that's currently occurring here is certainly possible with this, and even a weak tornado yet again is certainly possible as this storm does move off to the south and west of Dalhart. Again, a confirmed tornado is on the ground with the cell from 4 minutes ago by emergency management. This is a cyclic supercell. We have seen already 3 tornado reports with it as it's moved all the way from Felt, Oklahoma, where a tornado was reported, and then another tornado was reported just east of Ware, and now we're getting yet another tornado being reported just off to the southwest of Ware, Texas right now. So this cell does not want to die right here. So we're definitely going to have to watch this very closely. Looking like now it is diving off to the south and east. So areas between Middlewater and Hartley, Texas right now are going to have to keep a close watch on this damaging supercell thunderstorm right now with a confirmed tornado right now. We are still going to have to closely watch for upscale development on this, which could minimize the tornado threat relatively soon here. But given that this is out in front of that upscale development, it does have the greater potential to produce. And boy, is it producing. Already 3 tornadoes have been confirmed on the cell that is now just southwest of Ware, Texas right now. Likely first going to be moving between Dalhart and Middlewater, so watch out on the highway there. And then likely moving as well in the farmlands between Hartley and Middlewater, Texas here before making its way toward the Channing area eventually, if it does keep on this southeasterly track here over the next couple of hours. It does look like we now have a tornado vortex signature. Moderate tornado vortex signature is now developed here on this cell moving toward the Bryce and Leslie area right now. So this one also needing to be closely watched as it looks like the inflow and the outflow, or inflow and the RFD have met up with each other here. It does look like still a broad mesocyclone right now, but we are going to have to closely watch this as things really start to tighten up. I don't really see a reason why this one won't drop a tornado over the next couple of minutes here as it heads off towards the east-southeast towards Bryce and Leslie, Texas right now. We'll likely need to have a tornado warning reissued down to the south of the current one right now as this is started to get out of that tornado warned area. But again, you can see this powerful area of green right here. That is inflow winds, powerful inflow winds that are now about to enter the Bryce, Texas area right now. These are winds in excess of 50 miles an hour, so sub-severe right now. But these are powerful inflow winds. And then we've got our RFD winds, backside winds of this storm descending out of the top of it here toward the backside, up around that 45 to 50 mile an hour range. So looking like we have 90 miles an hour of gate-to-gate shear here heading toward the Bryce area. If this can tighten up, we'll likely be seeing a pretty significant tornado threat making its way toward Bryce and Leslie, Texas over the next hour here, 30 minutes to an hour. So we're going to be closely watching this as it makes it toward that area here. And again, here's that tornado report that was just seen here a couple minutes ago by the emergency manager, confirming that a tornado was on the ground. This was likely a little needle funnel here, given how small this mesocyclone is. But again, this storm has been cyclical, and even given the small mesocyclone on it, we are going to have to closely watch it as it's bending at a very good angle in order to produce tornadoes here at this time, moving to the east-southeast into that southwesterly flow here which is getting funneled right into that inflow notch here, where we're seeing that void of returns on radar. And it does look like these storms up along the Oklahoma-Kansas border here, central Oklahoma and Kansas, are starting to line out right now. We do have that flash flood warning that is currently in place. Let's see where this is for. This is going to be for the Renfro, Oklahoma area to just north of Medford. It looks like these storms have gone linear now and are starting to stall out across this area. So again, urban and field flash flooding is certainly a possibility across this area. It's saying 1 to 3 inches of rain have already fallen. And since these storms are lining out right now and becoming stationary, even more rainfall is going to be expected across this area here. So definitely have to watch that flash flood threat off to the north of Oklahoma here. A little bit less of a severe threat given the lack of instability up over this region. But it does look like that cold front has stalled out across that Oklahoma-Kansas border right now and is likely producing a flash flooding threat across a large majority of the border here, as it does look like these merging cells are starting to stall out here across the area. It doesn't look like they're moving too much. They're just redeveloping and back building across the area here. It's not looking like too much of a severe threat is in play here, as they've become outflow dominant at this time. And given the limited instability in this area, I would imagine these stay marginally severe as they slowly make their way to the east-southeast. I can't say a lot of these town names because they are hard to say, but the Pawhuska, Oklahoma area, Bartlesville, we'll likely be seeing a flash flood threat here with these marginally severe storms, and then probably seeing a flash flood warning getting issued yet again for the Kaw City area, Shidler, Oklahoma, Faracker, Greenola, Hurd, Oklahoma, and Browring, Oklahoma, right up here along the Kansas-Oklahoma border right now. Again, a lot of you I know over in the Tulsa area here have been talking to us about keeping the severe weather away. It is looking like we may get some marginally severe storms in your area here, but again, not expecting them to be of the severity of the stuff that's going to be developing here along the Red River Valley of southwestern Oklahoma and northern Texas here. And again, that observed tornado currently still on the ground. It does appear over here in that Dalhart area. We'll head back on over to the Amarillo radar. But while we're waiting right now, we are going to pull back up SPC and see if we do have that watch in place yet. I do know we have a mesoscale discussion currently in place, but let's have a look to see if we do have a watch out quite yet. Probably getting pretty close if we haven't gotten one. See if we can get that pulled up here. Give us 1 second. It's taking a little bit of time to load here. Does look like we just got another mesoscale discussion out as well. Does look like that watch has been issued. We're waiting for the information to load up on it here shortly. We'll try refreshing the page for y'all. in order to get that. And it does look like a mesoscale discussion for another watch has been issued as well for the DFW Metroplex here out into the Arklatex area, where we were mentioning that this line of not of supercell storms, this MCS, mesoscale convective system, or line of storms, will likely travel over the next several hours and into the overnight here. Not really sure why this isn't loading quite yet. There we go. Just got it up. And yes, this is now been issued as a particularly dangerous situation, severe thunderstorm watch. This is relatively rare, very rare actually, to have particularly dangerous situation, severe thunderstorm watches issued. This one right here, let's break everything down for you. Does look like this is going to be for winds upwards of 120 miles an hour here. Looking like a moderate risk of tornadoes at this time, low for significant tornadoes. But again, extreme wind gusts up over 65 knots. That is right about hurricane force there. A little bit over is high. We are anticipating a derecho-like event, long-lived high wind event, to impact southwestern Oklahoma now through the Red River region of Texas. Again, PDS severe thunderstorm watch, particularly dangerous situation. Severe thunderstorm watch has been issued from 4 p.m. this afternoon to 11 p.m. tonight across the Red River region here of southwestern Oklahoma and northern Texas. Severe hail also high, and then of course we do have that potential for upwards of 5-inch diameter hailstones, which we have already seen some of, especially just off to the south and east of Amarillo, Texas. And for you guys out in southwestern Oklahoma here, that cell is making its way to you before this all turns into a linear mode and into more of a high wind threat here. We are going to also have to have a look at the mesoscale discussion that was just issued. See if we can get that up here. Looks like that watch for the mesoscale discussion here is very likely to be issued. Again, 80% chance of watch issuance for the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex here down into the Arklatex region of Texas as well. This may also extend into southeastern Oklahoma as well toward the Hugo McAllister area, as models have shown a slight northerly shift, an expansion of where this long-lived high wind event is supposed to travel here. But again, winds by the time that storms move through this area are not expected to be as strong, as that instability is going to slightly wane as we head into northeastern Texas here again. Hurricane force winds certainly not out of the realm of possibility here. 75 to 90 miles an hour winds are no joke, but certainly nothing compared to what we're going to be seeing here across southwestern Oklahoma through the Red River Valley here of North Texas, where upwards of 120 mile an hour wind gusts are going to be possible as these supercell storms merge into a line and creating that long-lived high wind threat here all the way through the DFW Metroplex as we head into the evening and eventually the overnight hours here. Hold on, what happened there? There we go. Let's go back over to radar here. We'll have a look at what is currently going on, and then we'll go for a little bit of a break here. And we'll keep the radar up for y'all while we're on that break. We'll just go over the most significant threats right now. And then we'll take 15. There we go. Just got that radar up for y'all. And it does continue to look like that this cell that is now just to the east of Dalhart. Does continue to have tornado potential with it here. Let's update our storm directions here just to make sure we're the best view of the velocity of the storm. It's 345 over 22. It does look like here, again, weak rotation is in place right in the hook area here, just to the east of Dalhart. Areas within a mile or two south of Dalhart, southwest of Dalhart, will likely get into that significant hail threat here as the storm moves off to the south and east of the area. Looks like it's going to continue that southeasterly track over the next little bit here, so Dalhart will likely be out of it. We're going to have to keep an eye out on any easterly jogs that occur, because that could send this supercell storm right into the Hartley area or potentially even the Channing area of Texas. So we'll have to closely watch that here. The main threat right now is going to be this supercell storm that has started to get some pretty intense rotation on it here. And it looks like it's going to be moving just to the south and west of the Bryce and Leslie, Texas area here. But anyone that's on the highway between Leslie and was that Turkey, Texas here, are going to have to be on the lookout for up to 5-inch diameter hailstones, which have already been reported with this cell right now, and a potential tornado that is buried in the rain here of the hook. Looks like we are getting some errors on the radar here, so it may not be the most accurate right now. But again, it is appearing that we do have some pretty strong rotation on some previous scans here, heading right over the highway between Leslie, Texas and Turkey, Texas at this time with the supercell storm, as it continues to move off to the south and east towards Tampico, Texas at this time, likely getting into that area within the next hour here. And we already have our first significant wind gust here reported out of this storm, being reported at 80 miles per hour, it looks like here. Mesonet gusted to 65 miles an hour. And continued to gust over 58 miles per hour. Peak gust of 83 miles per hour occurred at 4:42 Central Time there. So again, significant wind gusts over hurricane force have been reported with the storm. Also, hail approaching grapefruit size here has been reported. So this is an extremely dangerous situation here for the Lakeview area. Memphis, Texas, and Esteline, Texas are going to be the next towns impacted by these upwards of 80-mile-an-hour wind gusts and a potential tornado heading towards the Tampico area. Definitely need to keep an eye out for this storm, even if you're not in the path of any potential tornado here. There are going to be tornado-like winds right out in front of the storm and in the forward flank and hail core of the storm. So wind-driven baseballs to grapefruits are likely also heading toward the Bryce and Leslie area of Texas at this time here. So definitely get into an interior room of your home if you're in these areas. We're likely seeing a damaging thunderstorm moving toward the Bryce, Leslie, and Lakeview area at this time. So definitely get into those interior rooms. And if you're in the Tampico area, we're starting to see that increased velocity signature. So we'll likely see a tornado warning reissued here for the Tampico and Parnell areas. So get prepared. You may need to get into that central room of your house or your storm shelter here shortly. So definitely heed any warnings that are issued over the next couple of minutes here if you're in those areas. And this storm is going to continue to move off to the south and east And again, starting to get those cell mergers up here toward the Pampa, Texas area, up toward the Borger, Texas area. So this is going to be that line of significant wind gusts that may reach up into the 120-mile-an-hour range here. So we're going to have to closely watch this as we go into the next couple of hours here. But with that right now, what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick 15-minute break, and we'll be back with you guys as these storms really start to fire up. We'll keep the radar up on screen for you so you can see the latest warnings as this line starts to develop here, especially down toward the Tampico and Parnell area. So you can see if any tornado warnings are issued for your area as this storm really starts to ramp up. But we will be back in about 20 minutes here, and we'll be back live as this storm system or complex continues to intensify across the eastern panhandle of All right, everybody, and we are back. There we go. And while we were gone, it does look like our supercell storm here in the southeastern panhandle of Texas near the Claude area has really started to tighten up here. We're actually getting that velocity couplet starting to get a little bit less broad here and starting to really tighten up. So we likely are going to see a tornado on the ground here shortly. And this will likely track just north of the Tampico area like it is now. And it does look like this system is starting to take a slightly more easterly jog now. So if you are between Tampico and Parnell, Texas right now, a very dangerous storm is approaching your area at this time. Does look like it will be outside of the rain for now, so you will be able to see that tornado heading towards your area. If it is on the ground, looks like it's going right in between Tampico and Parnell, Texas right now. So if you do live on a ranch over there, definitely keep your eye out, as a tornado warning will likely need to be issued shortly here, as this storm's really starting to tighten up over the last few radar scans here, and also confirmed 83-mile-an-hour wind gusts are being accompanied by this storm right now. Does also look like we still do have that tornado warning in effect off to the northeast or northwest of Channing, Texas, southwest of Dalhart right now. This again still has a relatively weak radar signature on it, but that is likely just because the radar beam is just a little bit too high to pick up on the low level rotation here. As a lot of that rotation is going to be in the lowest kilometer of the atmosphere that we're looking for. But this has been a cyclic supercell, still looks great on radar in terms of tornado potential here. And already 3 tornadoes have been reported with this storm as it's moved off to the south and east here from near the Felt, Oklahoma area in the panhandle there. Now that it's moved into the northwestern panhandle of Texas here, this has really started to ramp up over the last few scans here. Pretty consolidated mesocyclone now, so probably pretty nice wall cloud visible on the storm as it moves toward the Channing area right now and just to the west of Hartley, Texas. We'll have to continue to monitor this to see if this does continue to ramp up in terms of the inflow getting wrapped into this storm here, as this has been a multi-tornado producing supercell storm here. Does look like we also have had a report of 2.25-inch hail while we were gone, Hennig size hail here in Hartley, Texas, on the northeastern side of Hartley, Texas here. With the hail core, which is now moving over the highway between Dalhart and Middlewater, Texas at this time. So those are the 2 storms we are closely watching right now. And it does look like we're starting to get that complex of storms to develop here. Looks a little bit disorganized at this point. But will likely become more organized as we go into the next couple of hours here. Also, as we head off into Oklahoma right now, as I know a couple of Oklahomans are certainly watching this stream at this time, it does look like we do have some supercell storms that have continued to fire up here recently near the Ceiling area. Sorry if I butchered that. Over by Taloga, Canton, and Charleston here. Tornado potential right now. Generally looks like hailers at this time. It does look like they are becoming outflow dominant as well as you can see by this little boundary coming out of these storms. One thing we will have to watch going through the next couple of scans here is you do see these two boundaries that do want to meet each other. This could cause a reinvigoration of supercell storms when they do collide. We'll have to closely watch that here over the next 20-30 minutes or so. But as of right now, that is not going to be one of the main threats we are watching. We're going to be watching mainly these storms that are moving from the Texas Panhandle into southern Oklahoma at this time. As a particularly dangerous situation, severe thunderstorm watch has been issued for gusts up to 120 miles an hour here, with this long-lived high wind event that is expected to impact these areas right now. And we just got another report out of the supercell storm that is currently just to the south of Leslie, Texas, and Lakeview, Texas right now, of 90 miles per hour. Again, the National Severe Storms Lab team just measured a 90-mile-an-hour wind gust with the mobile mesonet. Looks like at 509 there. Yep, 5:09 Central Time near Hall, Texas. And then this is going to be making its way into Tampico shortly. These very damaging wind gusts are making their way toward Tampico and Parnell, Texas at this time. Again, this storm has had a history of producing upwards of 5-inch diameter hailstones. So these 2 to 1 3/4-inch hailstones are likely not the maximum potential of what's going on in this hail core right now. That we are seeing that 3-body scatter spike associated with this storm just a few scans ago here. And it does look like we're getting a reinvigoration of that hail core. The good news here is it looks like the mesocyclone has, as of now, started to diminish. It is possible that we did have a brief tornado touchdown for, say, 5 or 10 minutes here just to the north of Tampico. But it does look like at this time, the storm is either recycling or trying to merge with other cells within this developing squall line here that's expected to develop. And that would mean tornado potential with the cell is done. But I think we do have one more round of potential tornadoes with this cell as it moves off to the south and east here before we start getting that upscale development connecting here with these cells to the north, especially given the favorable environment this is going into here. So we are going to have to closely watch this cell here for renewed tornado potential. But again, right now, the main threat with this cell, now that that mesocyclone has died out, is upwards of 90 to 100 mile an hour wind gusts moving forward through Tampico, Texas, Parnell, Texas, and then eventually moving to the south and east here, the highway between Childress and Dunlap, Texas. So definitely a couple areas we're going to have to watch out for here as we make our way into this particularly dangerous situation, severe thunderstorm watch here. And this cell up by the Hartley area is starting to gain a little bit more rotation here. So this is going to be exhibiting tornado potential here over the next couple of scans, really starting to tighten up on the hook region of the storm there in the most recent scan, and also starting to see a little bit of an intensification of the mesocyclone and rotation within the storm here. Let's just make sure we have our vectors correct on the radar. 326 and 18. Yep, it does continue to look like we're getting that re-intensification of that hook here, and likely going to be seeing more reported tornadoes on this storm before all is said and done and things start to go upscale. That is a beautiful looking supercell storm here as it's making its way to the south and east. Not too many towns in its way. The next town in line would be Channing, Texas here. Just looks like we got a lot of canyons and farmland here where this storm's going, which is great news for the public here, as the cell is moving into relatively uninhabited territory, and hopefully tornado potential decreases with the cell before it does reach the Channing area, Channing, Texas area here. So this will be something we have to closely keep an eye on here, as well as this cell producing 90-mile-an-hour wind gusts most recently near the Leslie, Texas area, and now currently impacting Tampico and Parnell. Looks like we are starting to get a reinvigoration of that mesocyclone slightly just to the south of Tampico, Texas right now. You can start seeing that inflow region start to redevelop here. So that'll be something we're also closely watching. Moving up back to these cells here in western Oklahoma right now. Does look like these are mainly producing a hail threat at this time, as well as a high wind threat. Again, ping pong ball size hail, 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts. So marginally severe winds and some pretty significant hail making its way toward Elk City, Carpenter, Hammond area, Herring area, and Cheyenne, Strong City as well. Got to buckle down for some significant hail and marginally severe wind gusts at this time. But the main threat is going to be coming with these merging cells that are currently out by the Texas Panhandle right now. But we are going to have to wait a little bit for them to get themselves together here. Absolutely, because we are waiting for that evening invigoration of that low-level wind energy here, especially over southwestern Oklahoma, which models have been pretty persistent on, which is why we do have that moderate risk of severe weather. So we're likely to see things evolve here into a line over the next couple of hours. And then once that evening low-level jet kicks in, up around 70 to 90 knots here, that is when we're expecting to see the maximum potential of this severe weather outbreak here, which already has not been disappointing, with already about 5 tornadoes being reported, some 4.25-inch diameter hail, grapefruit size hail, and upwards of 90-mile-an-hour wind gusts all being reported already with this complex of storms that's starting to develop right now. And again, these storms up in northeastern Oklahoma here, just to the north of the Tulsa area, they are likely to stay marginally severe given the lack of instability up in that area. It's going to be mainly these cells down by southwestern Oklahoma and northern Texas by the Red River here that are going to have the greatest potential to do some significant damage as we go through time here. And we're going to have to closely watch this because it does look like we're starting to get this mesocyclone wrapping up here, going towards the Northfield, Texas area, just to the south of Tampico and Parnell right now, and just off to the east of Turkey, Texas. So those are going to be all the things we're going to be watching here over the short term for y'all. Let's go have another quick look at current conditions and models. Just so we have kind of an idea of what we're working with for the time being. Give us 1 second while we pull this all up for y'all. There we go. And this is the current conditions we're working with. It does look like we have become stable in the low levels here across southwestern Oklahoma and northern Texas along the Red River and just to the south. That is not going to impede this storm system from developing here. May minimize the tornado potential on the southern storm here. And just due to the fact that it's going to need a really strong mesocyclone to dive into and through this stable layer that is just above the surface. But high winds are still going to be the main threat with this storm, as a pretty intense wind shear is in place across this area here, which is going to help to maintain these elevated supercell storms that are going to eventually congeal into a complex that moves through the Red River here. The other thing that I did see here is the cell with the greatest tornado potential at this time, that has the most surface-based instability to work with, is going to be the cell that's up by, what was that town again? Sorry about that, y'all. Up by Channing and Dalhart, Texas. That's going to be the cell that has the greatest tornado potential right now, as it is working its way in a very favorable direction, 90 degrees to the surface flow here, and running into some pretty uncapped instability and extreme instability at that. So we're going to have to closely continue to watch that. Looking like that cell we were watching to the south of Childress, Texas, moving into southwestern Oklahoma, is going to start seeing diminishing tornado potential at this time. But again, with that strong wind shear in place, these storms will be able to maintain themselves and will likely have a significant wind and hail threat with them, as they run into some pretty significant elevated instability. And of course, they have that wind shear in place in order to maintain themselves aloft, which will be increasing as we head into the evening hours here. Let's go back over to the radar now and check out the storm near the Dalhart, Texas area, moving towards Channing, as there has been yet another confirmed tornado on this supercell storm as it makes its way to the south and east here. Let's just pull that up for y'all. We'll show you where that was reported, if it wants to pop up here. Hold on. Looks like it disappeared, so we'll have to reload the radar here. But again, we did just have a reported tornado yet again just to the east of Middlewater, Texas, and just to the west of Hartley, Texas. Let's try to get that back up here. Technical difficulties right now. There we go. Just got that back up for y'all. There we go. And this pink box right here is where that confirmed tornado warning is currently in place right now. Again, just to the west of Hartley, Texas, and east of Middlewater. This is making its way towards the area of Channing right now, moving off to the south and east. And again, emergency management did just confirm yet another tornado on the cell. That would be the fourth confirmed tornado that has been confirmed here. And if this cell does continue to move into a favorable environment as it makes its way toward Channing, which it certainly does look like it will be, we may be looking at our first PDS warning of the day here, as certainly a tornado moving into a populated area or town such as Channing is certainly not a good thing here, as this storm has been cycling tornadoes for a good little while here. And the structure on this storm, it is small, but pretty incredible looking, with this hook really wrapping around now, especially in these last couple of scans. This is likely when that tornado was confirmed here. When was this? This was at 5:29 is likely when that tornado is confirmed, and that looks like it did weaken in the last couple of scans here. But this is definitely a dangerous supercell as it is making its way toward the Channing, Texas area, and definitely shows the potential to be moving into a favorable environment for reinvigoration of this of the rotation within the storm here. The mesocyclone is likely to really ramp up again, looking like, again, it has weakened for the time being, but this cell has already dropped 4 tornadoes, so certainly wouldn't be surprised if we see it ramp back up and drop yet another here. Let's go back down to the cell that we were watching down towards the Parnell and Tampico area, which is now moving toward Northfield, Texas right now, in CV, Texas as well. This storm has had reported 90-mile-an-hour wind gusts on it by the National Severe Storms Laboratory truck. This is a destructive severe thunderstorm warning, so likely hearing sirens going off in Northfield right now in Seville, also down toward the Dunlap area here, as this storm is really starting to invigorate itself here. 80-mile-an-hour wind gusts is what is on the warning right now in baseball-sized hail. This storm does have a history of producing 90-mile-an-hour wind gusts and grapefruit-sized hail. So definitely an extremely dangerous situation here. Even though there is no tornado associated with this storm, this is definitely one of those situations you're going to want to at least get into an interior room of your home, because with these wind-driven hailstones getting thrown here, it is certainly possible that windows are going to be breaking on any homes that are impacted by this storm here, especially any windows facing into the wind. Again, this is starting to look a little bit disorganized right now in terms of tornado potential, which, as we saw in current conditions, made a little bit of sense, just because we are starting to see that instability become a little bit elevated right now. But this is going to be the start of that significant and destructive wind event here across southwestern Oklahoma and into this Red River Valley area, or like more of the Wellington area, and then make its way through Mangum, Oklahoma, Hollis, Oklahoma, Childress, Texas, are going to be some of the bigger places that are impacted here. And then eventually this cell is going to make its way off to the south and east here over the next hour towards Paducah, Texas, which we are actually storm chasing in just about a week and a half ago. Ended up seeing 6 tornadoes or so down in that region there. Now, it looks like we have another couple supercell storms developing here over by the Crosbyton, Texas area, heading towards Dickens, Glen, and Elton. This is likely not going to have too much tornado potential with it either, as it is going into that area of more elevated instability instead of surface-based instability, which you'd usually need for tornadoes to develop here. But again, extreme wind shear in place is going to keep these cells rolling into the evening and overnight hours here as they make their way into the Red River. And a whole slew of severe thunderstorm warnings have been issued up here by Elk City, Oklahoma, currently getting pounded right now with likely severe wind gusts and some significant hail. Already saw reports upwards of hen egg size already, and likely going to be seeing some higher values there. Again, marginally severe wind at this time making its way through Elk City, Cheyenne, Strong City, and soon to be Butler and Clinton, Oklahoma, here over the next hour or so. And we are continuing to monitor for the development of this squall line here that's anticipated to develop and bring those upwards of 120 mile an hour wind gusts into the Red River area here of Texas and Oklahoma. Not sure what this is seeing right here. Does look like we do have a bit of a mesocyclone developing on this northern cell here, although it is in a pretty unusual spot. So we'll have to see if that isn't just some radar error there, or if that's an actual mesocyclone developing over the next couple of scans, because normally you wouldn't expect a mesocyclone developing on the northern end of a storm that's moving in an easterly direction like this. But definitely we'll have to watch. But given the elevated instability in place, we are not too worried about tornado potential down in this area. It'll be up here on the storm that's moving toward the Channing, Texas area, as we're starting to get that reinvigoration of inflow getting funneled into this lone supercell storm. So we'll have to continue to watch closely this lead storm here. Although it does appear that some convection is starting to fire near the Channing area of Texas here, just off to the north of Channing. So that may also help to cool down the inflow here and start to build these storms upscale into a line. We'll have to closely watch that potential here, as that could help us out on the tornado potential for sure. But nothing is going to get in the way of the significant wind event, looking at the latest current observations right now. Let's head back on over to the latest rapid refresh model run here and have a look at what it's doing with the development of these cells, mergers, and that low-level jet we're expecting to ramp up into the overnight hours here. Just going to get that pulled up really quick. Boom. Okay, perfect. So now we're back on over to models here once they actually load up, and we'll have a look at how they're doing. Got the latest 21Z run of the HRRR here, which has been a little bit more reliable than at least the NAM. So we'll have a little bit of a look here and see how it evolves this convection, these convective blobs that have been in place over the panhandle of Texas here in western Oklahoma. Going through time, does look like it turns into a bit of a mess here, which is actually kind of a good thing when it comes to that significant wind threat. It actually looks like it has trended down in severity, at least for southwestern Oklahoma here. In terms of the high wind threat, it does look a little bit more on the disorganized side. As of the current HRRR model run, looks like more of just like a convective blob, not really any squall line at this time. But the bad news that we're seeing here is once we get into the overnight hours, it looks like models start to develop the line a little bit later on as it makes its way into the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex here. And as you can see, they start developing into an actual mesoscale convective system here. And we may start to see more significant wind gusts, a little bit more east than previously expected here. I know we have seen that 90 mile an hour wind gust, but that was more with one of those supercellular land hurricane type supercell storms that we were seeing here. It wasn't really part of a complex. But it does look like we're going to get this huge blob of convection that does fire up, which we're already starting to see with severe warnings going up all over the place for at least marginal winds and significant hail here. But again, once it reaches the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex here, that looks to be when the main event begins. So we'll have to closely be watching this here and the evolution of these supercell storms, because it looks like they might stay a little more cellular than we were expecting here on previous model runs, which is quite interesting. May lead to a higher tornado threat than previously expected. But this is going to be the main cell that we are watching here. This is the one up by Dalhart, Texas, here in Channing, Texas. That's going to be the main tornado threat going through the next couple of hours here. And then it does look like we start getting some supercell initiation. Oops. Didn't mean to do that. Does look like these southern end supercells that do fire here just south of the Childress, Texas region may also regain tornado potential as they get into a more surface-based unstable environment here, especially this one that fires up by Abilene and remains by itself for a little bit longer than the rest. We'll have to closely watch that. And then, of course, flash flooding potential looks to be one of the higher threats for southwestern Oklahoma. And then as we move into south central and southeastern Oklahoma, that appears now when that high wind threat is really going to ramp up. So certainly a little bit of an interesting development there in the latest model runs. So we'll have to continue to see if this is how it's going to end up being a little bit later into the overnight hours. Let's go back on into the radar imagery here and see how our tornado warned storms are currently doing. Last I knew there was just one. Does look like these are becoming a little bit more wind bags up here. A little bit manky, not really any major mesocyclones to worry about on this cell now. Looking like predominantly a high wind threat, especially right along this brighter green area right here out in front of this complex of storms that's starting to develop some multicellular cluster, likely seeing those more powerful winds up in the 80-mile-an-hour range, potentially even 90 miles an hour, making their way into Seville right now, and then moving into the Dunlap area as we head into the next 15 minutes or so here. Looking a little further north, up toward Panhandle, Texas, severe thunderstorm warnings have been issued. Again, marginal severe gusts and ping pong ball size hail because of the later initiation of that low level jet here. We'll likely have to wait a bit before we see those really strong gusts upwards of 100 miles an hour here. Another interesting cell starting to fire here over by Addy, Texas, moving towards the Puente area, right along this outflow boundary, it looks like. We'll have to closely watch what happens with the rotation in this cell once it meets up with this boundary here. It may really ramp up in a quick way once that boundary interacts with the southwestern portion of the storm here. Definitely going to have to be something to watch going through the next couple of scans here. Next thing we're also looking at is the cell that has been cycling tornadoes today. Already 4 reported on this one, and it looks like it remains tornado warned at this time. Hasn't been reconfirmed, but it does look like it's starting to regain that structure and recycle another hook here in order to get its act back together to potentially produce another tornado here as it makes its way just off to the west of Channing, Texas right now. So those are going to be the main ones we're watching here over the next little while. This cell right here, if there wasn't all this rain and hail off to the south, I would consider it for a potential tornado here. But it does look like it's going to be remaining in that elevated instability produced by these storms here off to its south. So likely just remaining a hailer and high wind threat here. As we can see, those downdraft winds are really starting to ramp up now, associated with this storm. Likely not going tornadic, at least in the near future here, as we're looking like we're seeing some mergers taking place here across Texas into some sort of interesting looking cluster. It's the most scientific way I could figure out how to say that. And then this cell all by itself, that's going to be the main one we're watching through the next couple of hours here, it looks like, as we're waiting for all these storms to merge together. Out here, probably by the Lawton area, is when we're going to start seeing those significant wind gusts come down. Besides this rogue 90-mile-an-hour gust we saw a little bit ago here. And then we'll also watch these cells up by the Elk City area for potential reinvigoration here, as they'll likely also become part of this cluster that eventually moves off to the south and east towards the DFW Metroplex there. Does look like we did just get a severe thunderstorm warning for the northern suburbs of Dallas right now. Let's have a look at this and see what it looks like here. I haven't had a chance to look at it. See when this loads up. There we go. This one also not looking like it has too much in the way of tornado potential, at least for the time being, as we're still waiting for kind of the main development of this storm core. But it does look like we are starting to develop a flanking line right here with a little bit of an RFD. But again, we're develop itself a little bit more here, get more of a hail core developed. We've only gotten 1-inch diameter hailstones. But if it is able to anchor into that southeasterly flow and go a little bit more east, we'll likely be looking at tornado potential with this cell here, as long as it can make its way a little more to the east than the southeast like it is right now. And that's the main thing with a lot of these storms. They're moving off to the southeast right now, which is slightly decreasing the tornado potential with these. So we'll have to wait for these to get their act together. If they start moving a little bit more west to east, we'll have to come back down toward the Dallas area here and start talking about that. But at this time, not too concerned with the tornado threat by the Dallas area as of this moment. Let's reload this radar up to the north here. Does look like we just got a photo in from a storm chaser out in the field here. He is on, this is Matt Roll. He is one of the guys we were out storm chasing with from Vermont this past week here. And he is on this cell that's near the Childress area right now. The one just to the south of Childress heading toward Paducah. And let me see if I can show you on my phone here what he's looking at right now. We'll give you this right here. Turn up the brightness a bit so y'all can see it. But this is what that storm is looking like now. Just to the south of Childress, Texas. Beautiful supercell structure right there with a lot of greenage happening in that cell right now. And you can also see a little bit of that inflow getting wrapped in on that on this side right here. Can see the little bit of inflow getting wrapped in with that tail. And if there was going to be a tornado, it would be wrapped right in this little lowering right here. So that's what we're looking at that cell just to the south of Childress, Texas right now. We'll put it back up on the screen. This is the cell that photo was from right here. With a beautiful mesocyclone on it, looking like it's starting to bow out a little bit from that picture. That was likely right back in here somewhere, where you were able to see that kind of shelf cloud feature with this wind bag right out in the forward flank of the storm here. So that's likely when we were seeing that photo taken here. Kind of matches up with the timestamp of when he sent it to me there. But it certainly looks a lot more impressive on the ground than it does on radar, that's for sure. So kind of glad he sent us that photo there to kind of confirm what we're looking at on the radar. And it does look like at this time, flash flood warning has been issued for this complex of storms that has developed just to the east or west of Pampa. This is for Borgers, Skellytown, and Cargray, Texas right now. About 1 to 2 inches of rain have fallen, and it does look like continued heavy rain is expected to continue, which it does look like that flash flood warning is certainly correct here, as we're starting to get some back building of these severe storms here, and then we'll have this tail cell move through the off to the south southeast as we're showing on radar right now. So we'll have to closely watch that for flooding potential and flooding reports. We've got this monster supercell down here by the Childress area, and then another one developing down by the Dickens area, which looks like it's going to merge here with these cells, as this one is moving off to the east and this one's moving off to the south, the one south of Childress. So maybe that'll be our complex that starts to develop there a little bit off to the south. But it does look like it'll take a little bit of time to get back together. And then our cyclical supercell up here by Channing, Texas, looks like it's starting to get its act back together again to drop yet another. This would be the 5th tornado. This one's dropped. Starting to get that rewrap of the hook here, and already starting to see a reinvigoration of that inflow. Pretty tall tale sign that this is starting to wrap up yet again as it makes its way into the Channing area here. Would not be surprised to see this drop another, given the current conditions we're seeing out of the Channing area with that surface-based instability in place, maximized wind shear, and those southwesterly surface winds that this storm is moving itself into right now. Those are the main threats we're looking at this time. Looks like we just got another wind report. Yeah, just about 60 miles an hour here, just south of Northfield, Texas. A mile south of Northfield, Texas. Looks like another gust to 60 miles per hour by a mesonet over there, just to the south of Northfield, Texas. Kind of surprised we're not seeing it a little bit higher, especially with these higher green returns right here. But we'll likely see these increase as we go into the afternoon hours here. Let's go back over to Oklahoma right now and get back with these cells again. Looking like these are taking on more of a bow-shaped feature right now and weakening at this time as they move past Elk City and toward Arapahoe and into the Carpenter area, Butler area, Morewood area. Foss as well, about to get in on some of the larger hailstones here. Clinton is going to be about 10 to 15 minutes out from these strongest winds, likely looking at 60 to 70 mile an hour winds at this time. And again, once these cells start to merge, that's when we're going to start seeing the maximum potential there of 120 mile an hour wind gusts being possible per the mesoscale discussion that was issued for the particularly dangerous situation, severe thunderstorm watch, that was issued for the Canyon country of Texas here between Amarillo and Lubbock, and then as far east as, say, Altus, Frederick, Lawton, Hobart, and down towards Archer City here. And then we'll start to see these watches propagate off to the east here along the Red River country as well in Texas. See if we have any more updates from our guy out in the field. Doesn't look like it at this time. Just 1 second here. See if he's got anything else for us to have a look at. Doesn't look like it at this time. He's probably repositioning since the road network is a little bit lacking over here. He's probably making his way over to the Dunlap area right now in order to get a better view on the storm, since the road network is a little bit interesting over there, knowing from experience. So definitely trying to get back out in front there. Dunlap is about to get in on those severe wind gusts right now with this little greenage popping up, going towards the radar with a little bit of inflow right now. Looking like the warning is for 80-mile-an-hour wind gusts still here. And this is likely where those 80-mile-an-hour wind gusts are existing right now. And they're going to slam into that Dunlap area. Also with a pretty significant hail core here. Likely looking at least a couple inches in diameter going into the Dunlap area as this cell starts to line out and become a gusty baseball maker just south of Childress, Texas here. Now it looks like we just went severe on this storm that is making its way toward the Dickens, Texas area right now. This one may go tornado warned shortly here as we're starting to see the tail end southwesterly side of the supercell storm starting to gain a mesocyclone on it right now. Green is going north and red is going south. And that means we do have that counterclockwise rotation starting to develop on the backside of the cell. It did just develop, so it might take some time to get its act together here. But we are starting to see the makings of a mesocyclone and rotation aloft start developing here with this cell that is heading its way toward Dickens, Texas. So I would definitely, if you are in the Dickens area, make sure you have a way to get those warnings. Listen for those sirens that are outside, because we are likely going to see at least a weak tornado drop out of this one right here, as it's really starting to ramp up. The cell is probably in the next 15 minutes or so, we'll start to see this go tornado warned here if this meso starts to tighten right back up here. Let's see what else we got. Doesn't look like we went tornado warned on these by the Dallas Metro here. Just due to the fact of those southeasterly motions of the storms, we'd want to see those go a little more easterly, in order to realize that tornado potential. So we'll go back up to these storms by the Channing area right now, with this storm yet again trying to get itself together here, just to the west of Channing, Texas right now. Likely going to be seeing another tornado drop from this. That would be the 5th that this supercell storm has dropped so far. Again, we have that flash flood warning there. Another flash flood warning was just issued up into the Kaw City, Oklahoma area. Also, Webb City probably going to get on this pretty shortly here as well. But again, as anticipated, very little in the way of severe warnings anymore up here along the Kansas, Oklahoma rainmakers up in that way. So we won't worry about switching radars for now. Let's go on up to this radar here, KVNX, and have a better look at these cells that are out in Oklahoma right now. There we go. That is interesting. Okay. We are going to have to watch this rapidly developing cell here out by the Watonga area in Oklahoma. Looking like it's starting to get a pretty significant hail core on it. Not seeing too much in the way of supercellular structure at this time, but there is broad rotation making its way toward the Watonga area right now. So we'll have to closely watch this over the next couple of scans here to see if we can get a little bit better of a supercell characteristic on the cell. But this time, minimal tornado threat. Just a broad area of rotation here. We need to see it tighten up a little bit more in order to exhibit tornado potential here for Watonga. But again, likely going to be seeing some pretty powerful inflow winds affect Watonga here over the next couple of minutes as the storm makes its way off to the south and east. Towards Watonga, and then it looks like after that, Greenfield. Again, 1.5 inch hail, 60-mile-an-hour winds at this time. Wouldn't be surprised if this starts to ramp up a little more to see those hail values get up into the 2 to 3 inch range here as we're starting to see those higher returns on radar right now. Right over Eagle City. So we're probably going to get a report along this highway between Canton and Eagle City of maybe 2 or 3 inches here. Is I'm sure storm chasers are on this right here. So we'll probably get a pretty good reading from them on this cell at this time. So we're just going to wait for the latest scan here and see if we get a tightening velocity signature as this cell makes its way toward Watonga, Oklahoma here, as it looks like this is going to dive south and merge with these northerly movers here, likely creating another complex of storms. That is the name of the game today, merging supercell storms into these massive complexes here. Looks like we're getting that happening down towards just south of Childress, Texas. And then that's going to happen up here in Oklahoma as well, especially over the Custer City area, Greenfield, Bridgeport, Weatherford. Will likely see this merge of linear lines, I guess you'd call it here, across western Oklahoma. And then the storm motion will likely keep up with the front here. And once they merge, we'll see these cells move off to the south and east as well. Associated with the movement of these cells along the front once we do start getting that merger going on here. Let's move back over to the Amarillo radar here, as long as we haven't gotten a new scan on the cell near Watonga. Doesn't look like it, so we'll make our way back over there here in a couple of minutes once we get a quick refresh here on our cell by the Channing, Texas area, the one that's been the cell of the day, dropping 4 reported tornadoes so far. Starting up here by the Felt area, dropping another couple by Ware, and then another one here reported by an emergency man to the Wellhart. Just got the new scan here. Pretty impressive hail core, really starting to wrap up its hook again. See if we got a velocity scan. Doesn't look like we have the newest velocity scan, but it does look like it's going to be starting to get a little bit more impressive here now that we're starting to get that rear flank downdraft wrapping back in and around just to the west of Channing here. So that's another scan that'll be very interesting to wait on here as we go through time the next couple of minutes here. That'll be very interesting to watch. How about these cells down here? How are they looking? Doesn't look like we do have a strong mesocyclone on this one yet. But if this does develop tornado potential, it would likely be right on this very back edge here and be very photogenic tailing off the backside of this storm here, heading toward the Dickens area over the place. So we may not even go tornado on this storm here, which would be a great thing given that this is heading towards some more populated areas here. Only problem with this is it is definitely going to be dropping at least 2-inch diameter hailstones here. Impressive hail core that's developed now, which is going to impact areas such as is going to be a storm. It would be making its way toward the Dickens area or just to the south of Dickens, between Dickens and Spur, Texas. And then it does look like we just got another storm report from this cell just to the south of Childress here. Let's see. Does look like there was an inflow notch where that did occur. So that may end up being a confirmed tornado here because a storm chaser just reported a power pole being bent over the roadway with lines still attached, hanging about 6 or 7 feet above the roadway. So that is a little bit interesting because I am interested as to where that was. It does look like, let me put on a marker here just so we can verify where this occurred and match it up with the velocity scan here. That's quite interesting. It does look like no, that's probably not a tornado report. Probably wouldn't end up being one. That does look like it was associated with those 80 to 90 mile an hour winds associated with the forward flank there, which is good. Probably not a tornado report, which is amazing news. But again, that is the power of these straight line winds that we're going to see this afternoon. Even though we're not likely to have too much in the way of tornadoes, these straight line winds are going to be causing significant damage, such as this, with power lines getting bent over and torn down here just to the west or east of Northfield, Texas here. Let me remove that marker here and we'll continue to move along. Does look like the supercell storm here is continuing to have a weak mesocyclone in rotation associated with it, but certainly nothing too impressive quite yet. Does look like it is drifting off to the south a bit, probably due to the fact that it's trying to merge with this other cell to the south here. So we'll have to closely watch that and see what the interaction between the two cells produces here. Because if they are able to merge and stay by themselves, tornado potential could definitely be realized. But given how close they are right now, I'd imagine this northern cell is pulling in some pretty cold air getting ejected out of the southern cell here. So if these are able to merge up here, we'll likely start seeing some sort of tornado threat associated with these. Again, main threat here is going to be hail. Does look like that latest scan did tighten up the rotational signature here. So may go briefly tornado warn, but again, not too enthused with the air mass that this thing is trying to inject into it right here with all this rain off to the south. Likely going to be an elevated type mesocyclone here. So definitely something we have to watch, but not an immediate concern at this time. Then this cell up by Channing here. Again, pretty broad in terms of the meso right now. Not too much of a worry at this time for dropping a tornado, but definitely needs to be closely watched. before it runs into this cold air produced by these this complex of thunderstorms that's developed down by the Amarillo area and just off to the north of the I-20 here. And there we go, just as expected, that supercell storm that we were mentioning over by Watonga, Oklahoma, has just gone tornado warned at this time, likely due to that reinvigoration of the inflow we were mentioning a little bit before. So if you are in Watonga, Greenfield, Geary, or Calumet, Oklahoma right now, you definitely want to get into that lowest level of your home, as a tornado warning has now just been issued. And this is a pretty potent looking mesocyclone right now. So certainly something that you are going to want to heed very closely here with this tornado warning right now. It hasn't been confirmed, but will likely be shortly here, especially given how tight this area of rotation is just off to the west of Watonga, Oklahoma right now. It's likely just going to miss Watonga if there is one on the ground right now, and it's going to travel. Let me check the vector here. It's likely going to travel right towards the Greenfield area or just to the north of Greenfield, Oklahoma, and in between there and Watonga, this area of rotation that has really just started to blossom up here, just to the west of Watonga right now. And radar signature certainly looks like this cell is no joke, as it is starting to wrap around and create that hook-like feature. And it's rapidly starting to develop some super cellular characteristics here. Golf ball size hail, and not too much in the way of wind according to the warning here, the tornado warning. But as this cell, if it does, wouldn't be surprised to see a significant increase to these inflow winds and the RFD winds, which are highlighted in the green and the red for the inflow winds here. So certainly something we're going to have to watch over the next couple of minutes here on the next few scans, as that's starting to look like a relative. Again, Paducah, Texas, now starting to get in on those 80 to 90 mile an hour wind gusts associated with, well, I guess it's down to 70 now. That's a little bit interesting because we were seeing some pretty strong, pretty potent signatures on that cell. Let's zoom back in and have a look at it here. But certainly wouldn't be surprised to see borderline hurricane force winds here, as this cell is making its way through Paducah, Texas right now. Looking like a pretty minimal tornado threat at this time, as this cell has gone pretty linear at this time right now. But again, up to hurricane force winds and potentially baseball size hail as these hail cores are strengthening here. As this cell, the beef of this cell, makes its way through Paducah, Texas here over the next 5 to 10 minutes, and then move south and try to start merging near Guthrie with these supercell storms off to the south of it near Dickens and Spur, Texas right now. Latest radar scan on the cell just to the west of really started to get a little bit more interesting right here in terms of tornado potential. We're starting to get a more consolidated mesocyclone right now just to the east of Dickens. And it does look like this cell is starting to grow a little bit of an appendage back here. So this one will have to be closely watched for a tornado warning to be issued on it here shortly, as long as the interactions with these cells to the south doesn't inhibit any potential tornado here. So we'll have to closely keep an eye on Dickens here in the area between Dickens and Spur, for tornado potential with that cell. This Channing one's finally gone non-tornado warned, so it's looking like the main storm we're going to have to keep an eye on right now is this one heading through Watonga, Oklahoma at this time. Looks to be having the greatest tornado potential right now, as we do only have one tornado warning across the severe weather outbreak area right now. We'll load up the latest scan here for the Watonga storm, Watonga, Oklahoma, and we'll have a look if we've gotten that tightening up at all. And yes, dropping down to the ground, this is a pretty intense area of rotation that has developed here on this cell that is now moving to the south of Watonga and toward the Greenfield, Oklahoma area at this time. It does look like we've started to lose a little bit of that hook feature, at least on that hail core there. But it's likely now, even though we're in the range fold here, it's likely broadening its rotation right now and trying to recycle itself. But again, we could start seeing a pretty dangerous situation here impacting the highway between Watonga and Greenfield, even if there is not a tornado associated with this storm, which would be hard to see given this anomaly in the radar right now. It will punch with it pretty significant winds looking at the radar returns right now, and likely upwards of 2.5 inch diameter hail as this hail core makes its way along the highway between Watonga and Greenfield, Oklahoma. So this will be something we have to closely watch on the next scan here to see if we can get that hook back on radar. Very scary radar signature right here. At least one or two scans ago with these red and greens pretty well touching each other here in a consolidated area. That screams tornado warning potential, or not tornado warning potential, but actual tornado potential. That looks like those extreme inflow winds are now impacting Watonga at this time. So likely damage occurring in and just south of the Watonga area right now as these intense winds are impacting that area at this time. We'll have to watch for later scans to see if this mesocyclone has held itself together here. So we'll have to closely watch that. And again, starting to go linear here. And just getting another severe thunderstorm warning out on this complex of storms that's starting to develop and likely going to start moving off to the south and east here toward the Oklahoma City metro area, El Reno, Oklahoma, and into the Weatherford area. Clinton about to be impacted right now with this line of severe thunderstorms that do have a potential to produce tornadoes at this time. Again, 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts and ping pong ball-sized hail are the main threats with this warning as of right now, according to the newest warning issued by the National Weather Service at this time. Again, this cell is the one we are closely watching for tornado potential at this time. Does look like that mesocyclone is still pretty consolidated right now and heading towards the Greenfield, Oklahoma area. So if you are in Greenfield, Oklahoma, and just to the north of Greenfield, I would definitely recommend getting into the lowest level of your home right now, as this cell is bearing down on your area and potentially producing a tornado on the ground at this time, just to the northwest of Greenfield, Oklahoma. And again, Clinton about to be impacted by this line of severe storms that's developed. This is going to be a pretty significant complex here, especially if it can start moving down toward the Red River here after it impacts the El Reno area, Weatherford, and the OKC metro. If this actually starts to turn into a line, right now it's just some multicellular mank right now. But if it's able to organize itself and move to the south-southeast like everything else, we could be looking at a pretty dangerous situation moving across the I-20 there and into the Red River area. And again, likely getting close to seeing a tornado on the ground here, heading toward the Greenfield, Oklahoma area as we speak. Waiting on the next scan to see if we can get any more information on the storm before it does make impact with Greenfield. But at the absolute least, some pretty intense winds, upwards of hurricane force and upwards of 2-inch diameter hail are all possible with the supercell thunderstorm making its way toward Greenfield, Oklahoma at this time. These cells off to the west of the Watonga Greenfield storm are likely just going to pack with them a marginally severe hail threat and a marginally severe wind threat at this time, just given how disorganized the whole mass looks at this point. But we'll likely see it dive into the more favorable instability and more favorable wind shear here, and likely see it organize and get more intense here as we go through the next couple of hours. Let's go back on down to this monstrosity of a cell that looks like it's trying to merge down here. This is that Childress cell we were talking about earlier, and we got the picture of from Matt Roll, who is out in the field for us right now. See if we got anything else from him. Not yet. He's probably still busy trying to not get merged into by these storms. But this is a heck of a squall line, mini squall line that's starting to develop here right over Paducah. Paducah likely just getting into like 3 to 3.5 inch diameter hailstones here. We'll be seeing reports from storm chasers in Paducah here likely very soon. As it looks like Jacobs and Paducah have just gotten slammed by ginormous hailstones, likely at least baseballs in these whiter cores here. We might even get some grapefruit reports. And given the signature we're seeing on radar here with this backward C shape, we're likely seeing those winds back up into at least the upper 70s, if not low 80 mile an hour range right now. With this particularly dangerous severe thunderstorm here making its way into the Paducah, Texas area. And actually, yep, there we go. Considerable damage threat on this severe thunderstorm warning here. Surprised it's not showing destructive, but that's probably because the hail core just reappeared in the storm warning. Has been issued. This is a destructive damage threat severe thunderstorm warning right now, and that is for and this backward C shape that has also developed as well for 80 mile an hour wind gusts. And what was the hail? 2.75 inches in diameter here. So again, a destructive severe thunderstorm warning has been issued for Crowell and Benjamin in Texas right now. Ford City, Truscott are also in that Vera as well. Likely hearing sirens going off in those towns due to this particularly dangerous severe thunderstorm that is ranked as destructive. Then we're back on this cell near Dickens here. Looks like that is starting to merge here. So we're likely not going to see a tornado threat evolve with this cell that's heading just to the south of Dickens right now. Likely going to be seeing some pretty significant hail with this cell as it moves through Dickens and what's this town? Gilpin and Girard, as these cells move into the area there. But these are likely going to be merging. So tornado threat on these is likely to be minimal unless they can merge and form actual supercell characteristics here, which we definitely hope it doesn't. So again, we got this destructive severe thunderstorm warning up. Paducah and Jacobs currently getting the worst of it right now, with likely baseballs falling, 80-mile-an-hour winds. So certainly not a good time right now there. Let's go back up and rejoin this cell that's up by Watonga and Greenfield right now with the lone tornado warning right now. Starting to escalate pretty quickly, this situation with this destructive complex of storms right now. Down here by the Paducah area and into Dickens, Childress as well, just south of Childress. And then this other pretty destructive complex of storms starting to develop out in western Oklahoma right now, with a hurricane force wind gust being reported by a Mesonet 77 miles an hour just to the west of Watonga. And those destructive winds likely just barely move to the south of Watonga here. According to radar imagery, looks like Watonga was just barely saved by the hail and those hurricane force wind gusts. But the same cannot be said for the highway between Watonga and Greenfield right now. The good news, this has turned linear, so tornado threat has diminished on this cell right now. The only issue is it does look like significant hail is making its way across the highway between Watonga and Greenfield, Oklahoma right now, as this becomes a more bona fide linear convective system right now, as things start to organize as this air mass for propagation of linear modes. But again, significant hail and likely upwards of hurricane force winds making its way toward the Greenfield area right now. Just moved through Fay, looking like we're moving into a pretty desolate area now. But I-20 is going to be next. As this starts to bow out and organize, we'll likely start seeing those hurricane force winds make its way to I-20. And they're going to be crosswinds. So if you are a trucker making your way between Weatherford right now, Hydro, Bridgeport, and El Reno potentially, it is recommended that you get over to the side of the road and make sure you point her into the wind or away from the wind, just to minimize the threat of rollovers here along the I-20 corridor, to make sure we keep everything open as long as we can in that area. And of course, to stay safe, you don't want to be rolling over your truck, that's for sure. But this is going to be a bunch of crosswind, hurricane force crosswinds that are going to be making their way into the I-20 corridor here. I've already got a 60-mile-an-hour wind gust here, 64-mile-an-hour wind gust in the Clinton area. And this is making its way toward Weatherford, Bridgeport, and El Reno as these storms continue to move predominantly off to the south and east right now. These will eventually make it down toward the Lawton area and Chickasha. And as, or Chickasha, I forget how you guys say that down there in Oklahoma. But definitely need to watch out for this complex. This is going to be one of the main complexes of the day that produce some pretty significant severe weather here across western and southwestern Oklahoma, and eventually into the Red River area. Speaking of the Red River area, we're going to go right back on down to this complex that has developed across the Red River region here, just to the south of Childress, Texas. waiting for that radar to load up here. It looks like we just got frozen up. See if we got any new reports here out of this particularly destructive severe thunderstorm that has just moved through Paducah with upwards of 80-mile-an-hour winds and possibly upwards of baseball-size hail here, making its way through Paducah, Texas, and Jacobs, Texas at this time. And pretty soon here we'll be watching this whole map due east, hopefully just north of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, but I am not hopeful there. So we'll have to see what ends up occurring with that. And it does look like we're starting to get a little bit of a tightening on this couplet here just to the southwest of Dickens, Texas right now. But again, due to the proximity of this southern storm that's getting absorbed into it, it does look like tornado potential until it merges is going to remain low at this time. But definitely bears watching over the next hour here, as long as those storms can merge and get into more of a supercellular format here. We could be looking at a pretty dangerous situation making its way into Guthrie or just south of Guthrie here on the highway between there and Aspermont, Texas. That is if these cells can merge properly into an actual supercellular structure here. But it will definitely take some time for it to do that because it's looking a little ragged at this time with that merger ongoing. But at this time, appear like we have too much more going on besides this defunct tornado warning here that is making its way through Greenfield, Oklahoma right now. So if this continues to look like it is, the rotation has weakened on this one, we'll likely take another 15-minute break here, and then we'll be ready to roll for the bulk of this event. And we'll check back in with the SPC to see if we have any additional mesoscale discussions. We'll also do a refresh of the models, have a look at that. And of course, we'll be on the radars as well to look at real-time conditions across the Red River Valley of Oklahoma and North Texas, Western Oklahoma, and of course, this complex down to the south here along the Red River as well, which looks like it'll be the predominant. I was concerned about going into this evening. Oklahoma City and like the Moore area, Newcastle, we'll have to watch that closely as this line's going to make a close pass to those areas. So we'll watch those closely once we are back from break here. So we'll keep this on live on the radar while we are on break here. We'll zoom in on this tornado warning cell that is making its way, at least right now, towards the El Reno area. And most importantly, a safe spot and pointing away from the wind there, just so we can minimize the rollover threat. Make sure you all stay safe, and we'll be back in about 15 minutes here. Just All right, everybody, and we are back. And it does look like while we were gone, we did get another tornado warning put out for Geary, Oklahoma and Cozumel. But at this time, it doesn't look overly impressive. When I was looking at it, it looked like it just looked good, pretty broad circulation on it for just a few scans there, and then it kind of fell apart and turned back into a windbag there. So overall, I think the tornado threat, at least with this cell, is decreasing for now. It may try to recycle right along the I-20 corridor here and make its way into the Bridgeport, Hinton, Oklahoma area. That would be the most likely scenario I'm seeing at this point here. And if anything does happen with this little appendage trying to form near Hydro, we'll definitely know about it because there's plenty of chasers sitting right on this road here between Hydro and Bridgeport. So they'll be able to let us know if anything is actually on the ground. We did also get another severe thunderstorm issued, a severe thunderstorm warning issued for this complex of storms for 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts and ping pong ball size hail here. But other than that, looks like this is congealed kind of into one larger supercell right now that is starting to make that easterly track here. So since we are back, we'll go back to current conditions here and kind of analyze the direction that this is moving here. And if it is favorable, give us 1 second. We're going to take away the radar and pull up current conditions here. There we go. Now we're on to current conditions here. And it looks like everything has become elevated instability at this time, which is great, which will rapidly decrease the tornado threat, except this extreme southern mode here, which is riding right along the boundary of elevated instability and surface-based instability at this time. But it does look like that cell in central Oklahoma there making its way toward the El Reno area, making its way down the I-20 corridor there, does show potential if that rotation can get strong enough to drill through that stable layer there. Looking at surface observations, it looks like we generally have easterly winds right out in front of this storm here. Easterly and then localized southeasterlies here. So moving due east right now, that is a pretty favorable direction for it to rapidly develop a stronger mesocyclone here. So I could definitely see tornado potential with it as long as it's able to get itself together and get some pretty strong rotation going there. Then it would be able to have tornado potential as it moves south and east here over the next couple of hours. And then we'll also have a look at these cells down on the extreme southern end here, way south of the Childress area, making their way toward the Abilene region right now. Those could also have tornado potential, especially if they're moving east, due east, or a little bit to the north and east as well. Given this southeasterly surface flow here, that could be a little bit interesting as well. Looking at our helicity values, it does prove that right now. Those southern storms, if they do end up moving with a slight northerly component, they'll be right in the wheelhouse of some of the strongest rotational values within the atmosphere here, helicity values actually. And those seem like they'll be the ones that have tornado potential through time here as we go forward and we start to develop this complex and move it through the Dallas-Fort Worth area here, it looks like we'll start to get a little bit of an acceleration or propagation developing here with these cells as we start to get a couple blossoming out through southern Oklahoma here. So we'll definitely have to have a quick look at those as well as we go through time to see if we can get some to fire up along the Red River Valley here and start that complex up that we've been talking so much about over the past couple of days here. Looking over at models right now, the latest model run, the 23Z HER, we'll see what that has going on in terms of the evolution of this complex of storms right now. So it does have all the cells that we were initially seeing there on radar. This is the complex that we are seeing up in Oklahoma right now. And these are those cells that we are seeing down in Texas. It has those bowing out over the next hour or so here, likely bringing with it upwards of 100-mile-an-hour wind gusts, especially in these stronger cores here that develop along the far western Red River area here near the Childress area, and then blasting east toward the Burke-Burnett, Lawton area as we go through time here. As you can see, as we move forward, and then it looks like it really starts to ramp up here as we go into the overnight hours. We start to get this pretty intense bow echo developing here along the Red River. This would include Lawton. I believe it's Ardmore as well as over here. Is that over there? Is that back here? But definitely the Lawton area, and then into the DFW Metroplex as we move into the next couple hours here. We'll start getting these storms propagating and moving out that direction here with those potential 100-mile-an-hour wind gusts. I do remember also seeing, while I was looking on break there, another mesoscale discussion getting issued. Where was it? Maybe it was this one. Yes, I believe it was this one right here. Yep, this is for the DFW Metroplex here. And this is just for the front end supercells that are expected to develop out in front of the actual line. We'll likely get another mesoscale discussion here in the next couple of hours for the actual line that's expected to move through with those 90 to 120 mile an hour wind gusts as they make their way from Wichita Falls down through Ardmore, Lawton, and then eventually the Dallas-Fort Worth metro area there. So we'll go back on over to radar here, and we'll see where we're at in terms of that tornado warning over Oklahoma, over western Oklahoma there, making its way down the I-20 corridor right now. There we go. Now we're back on this cell right here that's making its way down the I-20, and it does look like we have lost the tornado warning on it, which makes complete sense as it is really started to lose its supercellular characteristics here. It does have this little appendage, but it doesn't look like too much at this point in time. It's likely trying to get into that bow configuration and that upscale configuration we were talking about earlier here. This is a little bit concerning as we look down a little bit to the north and east of the Dallas-Fort Worth, a little bit to the northeast of the Dallas-Fort Worth area here. It does look like we do have a tornado on the ground here by Honey Grove, reported by emergency management here. Let's get in on the cell. It doesn't look, it looks like it was pretty brief, that whatever tornado touched down. It looks like it was right on this southwestern appendage here. As you can see by this really tight mesocyclone that developed here for a brief moment, and then it kind of started to fade away. But definitely need to keep an eye on this one, as it does move off to the south and east relatively slowly here, around 10 miles an hour. Let's just rearrange the radar here to make sure we're not still looking at rotation on radar here. 305 and 15. Just so I can give you all the most accurate information here. Yeah, it does look like that rotation has gone away in the last couple of scans here. So we'll definitely have to keep an eye on this one. But as of right now, not showing too much in the way of concerning characteristics right now. As it hasn't really developed supercellular characteristics at this time. We do have two other tornado warnings out here just well off to the east of Lubbock. So we'll have a look at these. The southern one is the one we were most concerned about when we were looking at the current conditions a couple minutes ago. So we'll have a look at that and see if it's gotten itself together there. And yes, this is quite concerning here off to the north of Claremont, Texas. Looking like a pretty broad mesocyclone right now. But if it is able to tighten up over the next couple of scans here, that would be quite concerning, especially as it has shown on the past 2 or 3 scans some pretty tight rotation that developed. We might even have a reported tornado on that here. Just looking at the radar signature there on this scan is especially concerning, especially since it was over the highway there in between Claremont and Spur, Texas, just a couple miles to the north of Claremont. And it does look like it's trying to cycle right now. It's figuring out which mesocyclone it wants to anchor onto. That does look like eventually here it's going to latch on to that back mesocyclone there, because it looks like that front end is starting to fall apart a bit, get a little bit disconnected. But if that inflow is able to intensify and wrap back in there on that back circulation, we'll likely be looking at renewed tornado potential with this cell here. It won't make it into Claremont. Looks like it's going to go right in between Jayton and Claremont on the highway right here. If there is going to be a tornado on the ground, if it is going to recycle itself here. So we will have to watch that quite closely here over the next couple of scans. This tornado warning off to the north here, I believe this was another pretty quick spin up since it is within a line here. Likely was probably showing for just a scan or two. Let's just load up this radar imager, have a better look at it, because it was in a bit of a range fold there. But likely with this line, it's going to be a more of a severe wind threat, as we have here 70 to 75 mile an hour wind gusts have been reported with this line of storms that made its way through the Paducah area there. And yeah, just as we expected, it does look like it was just for a brief period of time. We had a relatively broad mesocyclone developed there, and then it's kind of fallen apart by this time. So again, minimal tornado threat with this cell. That is tornado warned, making its way into the Trescott area. Looks like just got impacted by those hurricane force winds, and now it's making its way to Vera and Red Springs area and Morgan Population Center. So we'll have to closely watch this one, see if it recycles itself here, but it does look like predominantly a large hail and damaging wind threat up to hurricane force as we make our way into the next couple of scans here, next 30 minutes or so. Has a destructive tag on it, which makes complete sense given these hail cores and how it's starting to really bow out. But certainly tornado threat with this line of storms is going to be limited as we go through the next hour or so here. Again, the one we're going to have to watch more closely is this southern mode of storms near the Jayton area and making its way toward Aspermont and Hamilton. As we were mentioning before, the current conditions definitely favor this one for tornado potential in the near term here. So we'll definitely have to keep an eye on this as it's going in a pretty favorable direction for rotation right now. Oklahoma, it's a little bit disorganized at this point, but as storms move off to the south and east, we're going to see this all congeal into a line as severe storms blow up along an outflow boundary here along the Red River, likely from this convection and this convection. They'll merge right in the middle here, the outflow boundaries, and will, as storms make their way toward Wichita Falls and then eventually the Ardmore, Burke Burnett, Gainesville area of Texas here and into the DFW Metroplex. We got a couple of large hail reports here, up around 2 inches, which is certainly right of the settlement's way through Truscott, which just got another hurricane force wind gust here up at 74 miles an hour. Certainly not surprising given the Boeing features with this line of thunderstorms making its way through that region now, and likely going to be seeing some pretty significant hail reports at this time once they come through, especially as the storm makes its way across this highway between Truscott and Benjamin over the next couple of radar scans here. Let's just have a look over here. Very good. So if you are in the Seymour area, you definitely have to keep an eye on this storm. It's likely not going to be very tornadic in nature, but it's going to look pretty intense as it's coming into your area here. Probably a pretty monster shelf cloud's going to develop out in front of this complex of storms right now. And as it moves through the Seymour area in the next 45 minutes or so here, it's going to start accelerating. And with that acceleration, we'll likely see those wind gusts increase over hurricane force here. We'll probably start getting back up into that 90 mile an hour range, maybe even 100 miles an hour as this starts to propagate off to the south and east. We'll likely see a reinvigoration of the storm as it does look like it's starting to regain those hail cores here on the front leading edge of this complex right now. And then this one off to the south here doesn't look like it has that rotational signature on it anymore. But again, this is in an area that is favorable for tornado development. So we'll have to watch any of these southern cells here that develop for any tornado potential because they are in an uncapped, very unstable environment here with plenty of wind shear. So any cell that is on the southern end, it's got a very favorable environment to work with. So we'll have to closely watch those for tornado potential moving forward here. But at this time, looks like we're starting to get that backward C shape we've been waiting for to develop here. And once this fills in, we'll likely see this surge out and become our main line of convection that makes its way into the Dallas area here over the next couple of hours. And then we'll probably start to see mergers occur up here and development of more storms to create the full MCS that we've been talking about the last couple of days here. But for now, we're likely going to, let me see here. Looks like that tornado warning on that bow echo that was starting to develop there ended up disappearing. And that is exactly what we were expecting given the disorganized nature of the wind field right here. But again, hurricane force wind gusts are certainly going to be expected as this line makes it over toward the Seymour area. But until these cells get into more populated areas, we're likely going to take a quick dinner break here, grab some dinner, and then after that, as these storms approach the more populated areas and get more organized toward the Wichita Falls area here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, we'll go back live here for you once these get a little bit more organized and move off to the south and east toward the population centers here. But for now, we're going to probably be out for maybe about an hour, and then we'll be right back with you unless anything develops here on the southern fringe in terms of tornado potential. But for right now, things looking a little weak at this time, minus this bow echo. But going forward, models are still in agreement with that and move off to the south and east toward the Dallas area. But until then, have a great evening, everybody. Stay safe, especially if you're in that Seymour area. You have a destructive thunderstorm making its way towards you right now. And then again, these areas near Raton and Roby and just north and east of the Snyder area, we'll have to watch you as well for potential destructive thunderstorms with hurricane force winds and tornado potential. Again, we'll go back live here shortly if we need to on this southern mode here. But for now, we'll see y'all in maybe about an hour or two here once these storms get into populated areas again. And yeah, we'll see you then. Have a great night, everybody.